Hi, my name is Annie Ratner. I'm a junior here at Frisco High School, and I've always been a huge part of the band program. I play French horn, and for the longest time I thought that's what I was going to do for my career. I loved music and I was all into it, and I was like, I'm going to be a musician, no one can stop me, let's do this. But eventually I kind of realized I wanted to branch out, and that I have other talents and other things I can experience besides music, so I should try something else. So that is why I decided to take ISM. For me, ISM is reflected in this quote by Ansel Adams. It says, "In wisdom gathered over time, I have found that every experience is a form of exploration." And this really spoke to me because I wanted to come take this class, just explore my options, see what I can do, and then go from there, even though I had really no good idea about what I wanted to do yet. So that takes me to why I decided to study interior design in ISM. I had always been watching HGTV with my family since I was really little, and I just loved it. I thought it was so cool, and the last couple years it hasn't been a big thing for me, but I remember being a lot younger. One time I was at my grandma's house, and I told my Grandma, your bedroom's ugly, I'm going to redesign it. And so I drew a little picture up for her when I was probably about like 8 or 9. And I just remembered that when I came into this year, and I thought, hey, like I was really into this at one time in my life. Why not just check it out now and go for it? So I decided to study interior design. The very first part of this year was to interview different interior designers and also do research on my own to discover a little bit about it before I jumped into the mentorship. So for my research, my individual research, I looked into a couple different things. The first one was kitchens, because I always really liked kitchens. I thought they were really cool places in the home, and everyone says they are the heart of the home because that's where your food comes from. That's where you actually spend a lot of time. And I learned that, interesting statistic, you open your kitchen cabinets 80 times a day on average. And that's actually a huge number. Like when I saw that, that kind of shocked me, and that actually reflects how much you're in your kitchen and how important it is of a room to be in your house. And so I just looked into that because I thought maybe later on I'd want to do some kind of research with kitchens, like maybe I'd want to design a kitchen space, and that kind of took me into my final product later on. Another thing that I studied was the safety of materials, and I thought I had learned from one of my interviews that materials are a really important part of a home, and I researched this and I found out that there's many materials that can actually be really dangerous, that if someone doesn't inform you, it can hurt you in your own home. For example, some carpets have materials and chemicals in them that if a child spends a lot of time on the floor, they can breathe in these toxins and actually develop things like asthma. And that can actually be really dangerous over time. And these are kinds of things that not only interior designers, but mostly interior designers know what you should use and what you shouldn't use. And they know how healthy certain things are and what can actually hurt you. There's also some paints that if you smell them for too long, even if you actually can't physically smell them, the toxins are still in the air and it can cause you to have aneurysms. So you got to watch out for these things, and it's important that we have interior designers because they can help you make these good choices. Another thing that I researched this year was design technology, because these days designers aren't drawing things anymore. They're using their computers and they're using their tablets, and so I looked into different apps that the Apple Store has for you to design things. And so I looked at this one app and I played with it for a little bit, and I discovered that apps are not very easy to use for designing homes, but they are good, as one of my interviewees said. They are good for putting something together really quickly so you can show a client. Another thing that I found out about design technology is that there are things like AutoCAD, which are mostly used for architecture, that are good for interior designers, except they're very complicated, and so I stepped away from that. I ended up using SketchUp. Anyway, so the next thing that I researched was sustainable design, and that is the idea of designing your home so that it's going to be working in the future and that you won't have to worry about changing it. And this includes everything from being eco-friendly to having universal design, which is accessible for people that are handicapped, and that is all inclusive of those things. And that was really fascinating too. And in one of my interviews, I talked to a woman who had designed a home for someone who was handicapped, and they actually weren't in a wheelchair yet, but it was plausible that they would be in the future. So they made sure that all the doors in the home were wide enough for a wheelchair to fit through, even before they were in the wheelchair. Okay.